The small human ship shuddered violently as it entered the alien planet's atmosphere. Sparks flew along the hull and alarms screamed inside the cockpit. Jackson gritted his teeth, gripping the controls tightly. He had flown many ships before, but nothing like this. The planet below was strange. Bright purple skies stretched over mountains that glowed faintly, and rivers shimmered like liquid glass. The engine roared and then coughed. Pieces of metal fell away as the ship spun uncontrollably. Jackson tried to calm himself. "Just survive the landing," he muttered. The ground rushed closer, a forest of silver-leaved trees rising to meet him. With a final jerk, the ship slammed into a clearing. Trees shattered around it, and a cloud of sparkling dust rose into the air. Jackson stumbled out of the wreck, coughing and wiping soot from his face. He looked around. The forest was alive in a way he had never seen. Strange creatures with translucent skin and multiple glowing eyes watched him from a distance. Birds with crystal feathers flew overhead, calling in high musical tones. Despite the danger, Jackson felt a strange excitement. He was far from Earth and everything here was unknown. He checked his supplies. The ship was mostly destroyed, but his tool kit and a few basic survival packs were intact. He needed shelter, food, and most importantly, a way to signal for help. But as he explored the clearing, he noticed something unusual. A path of smooth, glowing stones led deeper into the forest. They seemed to pulse slightly like they were alive. Curiosity pushed Jackson forward, even though a part of him knew he might be walking into danger. After walking for what felt like hours, the path opened into a vast valley. At the center stood a magnificent palace. Its towers stretched high into the purple sky, shimmering with colors that shifted like liquid. Golden spires caught the sunlight, and the walls seemed almost alive, moving gently as if breathing. Jackson could hardly believe his eyes. This was not just a building, it was a living monument. He approached cautiously, hiding behind rocks and observing. Alien guards patrolled the grounds, tall, elegant creatures with armored skin and long, thin limbs. They carried weapons unlike anything Jackson had seen. But what caught his attention most was a pedestal at the heart of the courtyard. On it lay a crown broken into pieces, glowing faintly. The shards seemed to float slightly above the surface, as if waiting for someone to touch them. Jackson felt a strange pull toward the crown. He did not know why, but it felt important. Suddenly, the palace doors opened and a figure appeared. She was taller than the guards, with skin that shone like polished silver and eyes that glowed softly. Her presence was commanding. This was Queen Arya, the ruler of the planet. Jackson froze. Arya's gaze fell on him immediately. Her expression changed from curiosity to shock. She whispered words Jackson could not understand, and then her voice rang out clearly, "Only my mate can touch this." The guards tensed, ready to attack. Jackson held up his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. He had no idea what mate meant in this world, but he understood it was serious. He looked at the broken crown again. It was strange, almost magical. The pieces floated slightly, reacting to something he could not see. Jackson's instincts as an engineer told him it could be fixed. He took a careful step forward, glancing at Queen Arya. Her silver eyes did not leave him, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. The forest, the palace, even the guards faded into the background. Jackson reached into his toolkit and pulled out basic repair tools. He examined the crown, running his fingers carefully over the glowing shards. Each piece seemed to hum softly under his touch. He realized it was delicate. One wrong move could shatter it completely. But he also felt a strange connection, as if the crown was responding to him. Queen Arya remained frozen, her hand raised slightly, stopping the guards. She watched him with a mixture of awe and fear. The air was tense. The glowing crown reflected in Jackson's eyes, making him feel small and powerful at the same time. He whispered to himself, "I can do this. I have to." As he started carefully adjusting the shards, the air around them shimmered. The palace seemed to hum with energy. Jackson worked quickly but carefully, his human hands guided by instinct and focus. Outside, the alien guards whispered among themselves, uncertain what to do. They had never seen a human survive here, let alone handle something so sacred. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Jackson's mind was completely focused on the crown. He felt the weight of responsibility but also a strange excitement. This was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humans could do something remarkable in a place no one thought they could. Finally, the crown began to glow more steadily, its pieces aligning perfectly. Jackson stepped back slightly, exhausted but hopeful. Queen Arya's eyes widened. For the first time, she took a small step toward him, as if acknowledging what he had done. The guards relaxed slightly, sensing something extraordinary had happened. Jackson did not yet know what mate truly meant or what his actions would lead to, but he felt the beginning of something much bigger. This was not just a crash landing. It was the start of a story that would change everything on this alien planet, and maybe beyond. Jackson stepped back from the glowing crown, breathing hard. The floating shard seemed to hum softly as if alive. Queen Aria's eyes were fixed on him, wide with surprise and something he could not name. The guards shifted uneasily, whispering to each other in their alien language. Even though they did not understand Jackson, their tension was clear. "Only my mate can touch this," Aria repeated, her voice firm but quiet. Jackson did not understand the words, but he could sense their meaning. She did not want anyone to touch the crown except someone chosen, someone special. He looked down at the glowing pieces. They were fragile and strange, floating slightly above the pedestal, responding to his presence. Somehow the crown was waiting for him. He hesitated. Jackson was not used to being treated with awe or fear. Usually humans were small players in the galaxy, ignored by stronger races. Here he was standing in the center of an alien palace, with glowing shards floating before him and an entire species watching. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. One wrong move could anger the queen or break the crown. Jackson glanced at Queen Aria. She was beautiful, but she was also powerful, dangerous even. Her silver skin shimmered in the light, and her eyes seemed to look right through him. The guards stayed close to her, weapons ready. He realized this was not just about the crown, it was about her trust. She was letting a human touch something sacred. The floating shards pulsed lightly as Jackson's hands hovered over them. He noticed patterns, small lines of energy running through the crown like veins. His training as an engineer told him these patterns were important. If he followed them carefully, he could restore the crown. If he did not, it could shatter completely. He took a deep breath and touched the first shard. A soft glow spread through his fingers. It was warm, almost comforting. The shard seemed to recognize him. Jackson carefully lifted it, aligning it with another shard floating above the pedestal. As he moved, the other pieces shifted slightly, adjusting to his touch. It was strange, almost like the crown was alive. Queen Aria did not move. She watched silently, her eyes fixed on the crown and on Jackson. The guards relaxed slightly but stayed alert. Jackson could feel their curiosity. They had never seen a human do something like this. Humans were simple, fragile creatures, but here, one human was doing the impossible. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Jackson's hands worked carefully, guided by instinct and focus. He whispered to himself, explaining each step like he was teaching someone, though no one could understand him. "Just a little more, a line here. Careful." The crown's glow grew brighter as he worked, and he could feel energy pulsing from it, almost like a heartbeat. Finally, the last shard moved into place. The crown floated steadily, glowing with a soft, steady light. Jackson stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked at Queen Aria, unsure of what would happen next. The air was still, charged with tension. The palace seemed to hold its breath. Then, something unexpected happened. Queen Aria stepped forward slowly. Her voice was softer this time, almost a whisper. "You have done what no one else could." Her eyes were wide, filled with amazement and something Jackson could not identify. He realized that in this moment he had earned her trust, even if he did not yet understand why. The guards looked at each other. They had been ready to attack, to defend their queen, but now they lowered their weapons. This human had done what no alien had dared attempt. He had touched the sacred crown, repaired it, and survived. Their respect for him grew silently, though none of them spoke. Jackson felt a strange connection to the crown and to Aria. He did not understand it fully, but he knew something had changed. This was no longer just a mission to survive or fix a piece of alien metal. He felt like he was part of something bigger, something important to the planet and its ruler. Queen Aria raised her hand, and the glowing crown floated gently onto her head. It settled perfectly, shining with renewed power. The energy in the room seemed to shift, and Jackson felt a warmth spreading through him. He realized that the crown's power was tied to her life and her authority. By repairing it, he had connected with her in a way that no one else could. "Humans," Aria said slowly, as if testing the word. "Perhaps, you are not as weak as we thought." Jackson smiled slightly. Humans had always been underestimated, but here, he had proven that courage, intelligence, and determination could change everything. The alien guard stepped back, leaving space around them. Queen Aria turned her glowing eyes fully on Jackson. "Only my mate," she repeated, her voice soft, almost like a song. Jackson did not understand what it meant fully, but he sensed its importance. She was saying he had done something extraordinary, something that connected them in ways he could not yet comprehend. Jackson nodded slowly, feeling both nervous and proud. He did not know what the future held, but he knew he had earned a place here among these aliens and perhaps something even more. The crown was restored, the Queen's trust was given, and a new chapter had begun. Outside, the alien planet continued to glow under the purple skies. Jackson looked up and felt a sense of hope. He had landed by accident, but now he was part of something bigger. Something that might change not just the planet but the universe. And in that moment he realized this was only the beginning. The palace was quiet now, the glow from Queen Aria's restored crown filling the hall with soft light. Jackson felt the warmth of it on his face, and for the first time he sensed the true weight of what he had done. The crown was more than a symbol, it was alive, connected to Aria in ways he could not understand. Yet he felt a strange confidence. His human hands, small and fragile compared to alien strength, had repaired something sacred. Queen Aria stood still, her eyes locked on him. Her silver skin reflected the crown's light, making her look almost ethereal. "You," she whispered. Her voice trembled slightly, a sound Jackson had never heard from her before. "You have done what no one else could." "Only my mate." Her words trailed off. Jackson did not know what mate meant here, but he felt its importance. The alien guards shifted uneasily. They were used to total control, but Jackson's presence had changed the atmosphere. He was not a warrior, yet he had touched something sacred and survived. They watched him carefully, unsure whether to trust this human, yet unable to deny the skill he had shown. Jackson took a cautious step forward. "I only fixed it," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to." He paused, noticing the crown's faint hum under Aria's hands. It felt alive, almost as if it recognized him. "It's amazing," he added. The crown's glow pulsed, brightening slightly as if responding to his words. Aria tilted her head, studying him. "Most cannot even enter this hall," she said softly. "Few dare touch the crown. Even fewer survive." She took a slow step closer. "You survived. And you repaired it." Her glowing eyes narrowed, but not in anger. There was awe there, and something else Jackson could not name. He glanced around the hall. The palace was filled with treasures, alien devices and glowing artifacts, but none of them seemed as important as the crown. The shards that had floated before now rested perfectly on her head. The soft light spread across the room, casting strange shadows on the walls. Jackson could feel the energy pulsing from the crown, almost like it was breathing. He knelt instinctively, inspecting it closely. Jackson's mind worked like it always did, methodical, careful, and practical. He examined the patterns of light and the tiny threads of energy running through the crown. Each piece seemed to connect to the others in a way that no ordinary engineering could explain. He realized that the crown's structure was responsive to touch, almost as if it accepted only someone with the right instincts. Aria watched him silently. She did not command him to stop. She did not move closer or push him away. It was as if she were testing him, waiting to see if his human touch could achieve something extraordinary. Jackson felt pressure, but also a sense of focus he had never experienced before. This was a challenge unlike any he had faced. He reached out carefully, touching the edge of the crown. The glow spread into his fingers, warm and pulsing. His heart raced. The energy was strange, unlike anything he had experienced on Earth, but it felt familiar. He could feel a connection forming between himself and the crown. It was subtle, a rhythm he could sense but not see. Suddenly the crown reacted. A small shard shifted, realigning slightly as if guided by his hand. Jackson froze, surprised. He moved carefully, adjusting another piece. The crown responded, glowing brighter with each careful touch. It was alive in a way he had never imagined, and it was responding to him, human, simple, and yet somehow capable. Aria's eyes widened. It accepts you," she whispered, her voice trembling. The guards gasped quietly. They had never seen a human interact with the crown this way. The energy in the room seemed to intensify, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Jackson realized that he had not just repaired it, he had awakened something. He continued carefully, his hands steady despite the intensity. The crown's glow filled the hall, and he could feel the connection between himself and Queen Aria growing stronger. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment of completion. He aligned the final shard. The crown's glow stabilized, bright and steady, radiating warmth throughout the hall. Queen Aria stepped forward slowly, placing her hands on either side of the crown. The light spread across her body, shimmering along her silver skin. She looked at Jackson with a mixture of awe and something deeper, something he did not yet understand. "You are my mate," she said softly. The words were simple but heavy, carrying weight he could feel in his chest. Jackson blinked. He did not fully understand, but he sensed its importance. This was not about romance. It was about trust, respect, and a bond he had earned through courage and skill. The crown, Arya, and even the palace itself seemed to recognize him now. He had proven that a human, small and fragile, could accomplish what even the strongest aliens could not. The guards stepped back, lowering their weapons. They watched silently, their respect clear. Jackson stood, breathing heavily but feeling a strange pride. He had survived, repaired the sacred crown, and connected with the alien queen in a way no one else had. Outside, the alien planet glowed under the purple sky. Strange creatures watched from a distance, sensing the change. Jackson looked at Queen Arya. She was no longer just a ruler, she was a partner in a bond that had been quietly formed through courage, skill, and a simple human touch. He realized in that moment that he was no longer just a visitor on this planet. He had become part of its story and part of something much greater than himself. And deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The palace was silent, filled only with the soft hum of energy from Queen Arya's crown. Jackson stood a few steps away, still catching his breath. He could feel the warmth from the crown spreading through the hall. The floating shards had fused perfectly, and the crown now glowed steadily, almost like it had been alive all along. He looked at Queen Arya, her silver skin shimmering, her eyes wide and unblinking. Then without warning she froze. Her body stiffened as though she had become part of the crown itself. Her hands remained slightly raised and her glowing eyes fixed on him. Jackson's heart raced. He had no idea what was happening. "Arya?" he asked softly, stepping closer. The energy in the room grew stronger, pulsing in rhythm with the crown's glow. The alien guards tensed immediately, raising their weapons, but Arya's presence stopped them. She did not speak. She did not move. The light from the crown spread outward, filling the hall and reflecting in the walls. Jackson could feel it through his feet, his hands, even his chest. The energy was alive, connecting him to Arya in a way he could not explain. He realized something important. The crown's energy was not just a symbol of power, it was a link. His actions had restored it, and somehow he had triggered a connection with Arya herself. He could sense her life force through the glowing threads running from the crown. It was as if the crown and Arya were one entity, and now he was part of it. The guards whispered nervously among themselves. No human had ever been allowed so close, and no human had ever triggered such a reaction. Some of them looked fearful, others curious. But Jackson did not have time to worry about them. He focused on Arya and the crown. The soft hum grew louder, vibrating in his chest. He understood that he had awakened something powerful, something ancient. Arya's voice broke the silence, though it was faint, almost like a whisper carried by the crown itself. "Only you," she said, the words trembling. "Only my mate can," she could not finish. Her voice seemed trapped inside the energy, carried by the crown's glow. Jackson stepped closer, reaching out cautiously. The moment his fingers brushed her arm, the energy flared. Warmth surged through him, and a wave of light spread across the hall. The crown's shards glowed brighter, and Jackson felt a pulse of power linking him and Arya together. He realized the truth. He had not only repaired the crown, he had become a part of its magic, the first human ever to do so. The connection was strange but not frightening. Jackson could feel Arya's thoughts in flashes, her caution, her fear, her awe, and then trust. He could feel the bond forming, something that went beyond words. It was recognition, understanding, and a quiet acceptance. In that moment he understood the meaning of her earlier words. Mate was more than a title. It was a bond, one that could not be broken lightly. The alien guards watched silently. They did not interfere. Even their strongest warriors sensed that this was not a threat. It was an event beyond their understanding. Humans were simple creatures, but here, one human had awakened something older than any of them, something that belonged to the Queen and the planet itself. Jackson felt the energy calming slightly, but the connection remained. He looked into Arya's glowing eyes and saw something new: trust, respect, and an unspoken acknowledgement that he was no ordinary human. She spoke again, softly this time, words he could not understand, but the meaning was clear. He had earned her recognition. The hall began to feel warmer, filled with a soft light. Jackson could sense the crown's power settling into its full strength. The shards pulsed gently like a heartbeat, and Arya slowly regained movement. She stepped forward, her hands still glowing with energy from the crown. The connection between them remained strong, a silent bond that neither words nor actions could fully explain. Jackson realized the truth: he had done more than repair a crown. He had bridged a gap between humans and this alien race, between ordinary and extraordinary, between fear and trust. He had proven that a human with courage and determination could achieve the impossible. Queen Arya finally spoke clearly. "You have awakened me. You're my mate. Only you could do this." The words carried weight, authority, and something softer, something like respect and gratitude. Jackson nodded slowly, understanding the significance, even if he could not fully grasp the depth of the connection. The guards bowed slightly, their weapons lowered. They had witnessed an event that would be remembered forever. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, but now one human had achieved what even their strongest warriors could not. Jackson stood tall, humbled but proud. Outside, the alien planet glowed under its purple sky. Strange creatures watched silently from the forests, sensing the shift in power. Jackson looked at Queen Arya, the glowing crown, and the palace around them. Everything had changed. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a part of this world, a part of its story, and part of a bond that could change the planet's future. And in that moment, Jackson knew that the real journey was just beginning. The crown was restored, the queen awakened, and the bond between human and alien was stronger than anyone could imagine. The future held many unknowns, but he was ready to face them, together with Queen Arya. The hall was filled with quiet light from Queen Arya's crown. Jackson stood beside her, still feeling the hum of energy pulsing between them. The connection he had formed was strong, a bond that went beyond words or understanding. The alien guards had relaxed, and the palace itself seemed calmer, as if the very walls recognized what had happened. Queen Arya looked around the hall, her glowing eyes surveying the treasures and artifacts that had been part of her rule for centuries. She raised her hand, and the crown's light pulsed gently in response. "The human has proven himself," she said softly, her voice carrying across the hall. "He is no ordinary visitor. He is part of this world now." Jackson nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. He had not come here seeking power or recognition. He had only wanted to survive after his ship crashed. Yet now he was standing in the center of an alien palace, recognized by its ruler and connected to her in a way no one else had ever been. The guards exchanged glances. They had been wary at first, ready to attack any human who came too close, but now they bowed slightly, acknowledging Jackson's courage and skill. Even their strongest warriors could not deny what had happened. A human had repaired the sacred crown, awakened the queen, and formed a bond that changed everything. Queen Arya stepped forward, her hands resting gently on the crown. She looked at Jackson with a mixture of respect, gratitude, and something deeper, something he could not yet name. "You are my mate," she said again, more clearly this time. "Not because of ceremony, not because of power, but because of what you have done. Only you could touch the crown, repair it, and survive. Only you could awaken me." Jackson swallowed hard. He had never imagined such words, such recognition would come to him. Humans had always been seen as weak, insignificant, fragile. But here, on this distant planet, he had proven that courage, determination, and intelligence could achieve what many thought impossible. He glanced around the hall. The palace was alive, glowing with energy, and even the smallest details, the floating lights, the humming walls, the shifting shadows, seemed aware of his presence. He realized that he was no longer just a visitor. He was part of this world, part of its story, and part of its future. Queen Arya turned to the guards, raising her hands slightly. "Let it be known," she said, her voice ringing with authority, "that the human who repaired my crown is recognized as an ally of this planet. Let humans have a place among us, a place of respect." The guards bowed deeply, some whispering among themselves. It was a historic moment. A human had been welcomed, not as a guest, but as a trusted partner. Jackson felt a warmth spread through him. He had never expected this, never imagined that a simple act of repair could lead to something so extraordinary. He looked at Queen Arya again. She was regal, powerful, and yet there was a softness in her expression, a quiet trust that made him feel both honored and responsible. Outside, the alien planet shimmered under the purple skies. Creatures in the forests paused to watch the palace. Something had shifted. The energy of the crown, the bond between Jackson and Arya, and the recognition of humans had changed the atmosphere. It was as if the planet itself was acknowledging that a new chapter had begun. Jackson stepped closer to Queen Arya. "I didn't expect any of this," he admitted. "I just wanted to survive." She smiled faintly, a small curve of her silver lips. "And yet, survival brought you here," she said. and through you something greater has begun. The crown glowed brighter for a moment, pulsing like a heartbeat. Jackson could feel the energy connecting them, steady and strong. He realized that this bond was not just about trust or recognition. It was about partnership. Together they could face challenges no one could imagine. Together they could protect the planet and perhaps even reach beyond it. The palace doors opened slowly and the alien citizens began to enter. They had heard of the events in the hall and came to witness the human who had touched the sacred crown. They bowed as he passed, whispering words of respect in their alien language. Jackson smiled politely, realizing that humans had finally earned a place in this alien society, not through force but through courage, intelligence, and heart. Queen Arya placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "Many challenges await, but now we face them together." Jackson nodded, feeling the truth of her words and every pulse of energy between them. Outside, the stars of the alien planet shone brighter than he had ever seen. The purple skies stretched endlessly, promising adventure, danger, and discovery. Jackson took a deep breath. He was ready. He was no longer alone. He had allies, trust, and a bond that could change not just a palace or a planet, but perhaps the galaxy itself. The crown shone steadily, the queen stood tall, and the human remained at her side. Together they were stronger than anyone could have imagined. And with that, a new alliance was born, one that would reshape the future and show the universe the strength of humans, even in a world far beyond Earth. The story of the human who repaired the sacred crown, who awakened the alien queen, and who formed a bond that no one could break, had only just begun. The palace glowed, the stars watched, and a new chapter unfolded, full of hope, courage, and the promise of greatness.